All right, let's get started. Welcome back, fellow advocate. Mr. Wayne here with New Thought Society, and today is Wednesday, February 26th. Right now it is 9:17 at night, and we are starting week 5 of Master Key System. It's hard to believe that this much time has already passed. We have been doing our meditations 4 to 5 days a week, and I want to explain this stuff works. It's the things that I have been experiencing at work. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal how quickly it could happen. I do have a lot to share. A lot of changes have happened within the last 2 to 3 weeks with my direction, with what I am manifesting myself. Now, for me, I have this opportunity at my fingertips at Walmart, and I've been working at Walmart about to be a year now, and it took me all year to realize the gold that's currently at my fingertips and the opportunity that I actually have at the location and the place that I'm at. Because Walmart it's worldwide. With how big that business is, there is massive amounts of opportunity for the associates. Now, I spent a very long time with my consciousness, since we use the term consciousness all the time, with my consciousness divided, because I was focusing on getting back into something that I had last year. Now, I already shared my story. I know I shared it in another video, but I got into trucking and I made a mistake which cost me my position. But it's okay, I failed at it. I took a risk. I lost a lot of things from that failure. But that failure doesn't make me a failure. Your failures do not make you a failure. It's a learning experience. It's a teaching experience. You need to take the pain, absorb it, and move forward regardless of how hard or how much it hurts. Because what other choice do we have? This is life. We have to keep moving forward regardless of the things that happen. It's just life. And that forced me out here to where I am today. And starting over, I had to start over. Legitimately, I lost my place. I lost 2 of my babies. Now when I say babies, I'm talking about pets, right? I lost 2 of my cats. And I love those cats. Changed my life. I love them, and I think about them a lot. I think about them all the time, and I wish they could be here with me. And that was a loss, and I lost that because I failed at the risk that I took. But today I know, when I look back on it, it's only made me a better, stronger, wiser individual. And it's also made me realize the importance of the opportunities that we do have. Now, being at Walmart, I've learned the opportunity and recognized the opportunity at my fingertips. And I made a decision a couple weeks ago. I made a decision that I wasn't going to try getting into trucking right now. Not again. It's taking too much time. All right, I'm 31, right? I know a lot of, I'm still young, whatever, great. But there's a goal that I have. There's a life I want to live. And especially in a capitalistic society, and being of service, being a man of service, we need to provide service through an avenue to get the things that we desire, right? And it's a very honorable thing, providing that service. And fortunately, here in America, we get to choose how we're going to provide that service in accordance to the opportunities that are already out there. But for me, it was like, I can't waste time anymore trying to get into something that's just not moving, right? We need progress. We need to move. We need something that we could take and run with. And it hit me that I already have what I need in front of me, which is Walmart. I made a decision. I'm going to move up. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to move with what I currently have and progress in this direction. And I made that decision, and then my consciousness, my mind, my thinking, since this program is teaching us about our thoughts, manifestations, universal law, right? What our mind does when we think, right? What we do when we think, what we become from the things that we think about. We have to know exactly what it is that we want. And what I'm experiencing right now in my life, it's a direct example of the truth and reality of these statements. Because once we know what we want and our mind is not divided between one thing and another, we could focus all of our conscious forces towards the achievement of that goal, of that purpose. And it has to be in alignment with the things and the places of which we are. Now, the mistake I made with trucking, like there's a certain situation going on too. It doesn't look good on paper. I'll tell you that. It was a preventative accident. Now, trucking is a very, very expensive, like it's just an expensive business. It's a very expensive business. And people are coming and going all the time. And, you could get rid of one driver for making a mistake, which costed the company a lot of money, and simply hire a new one that may or may not make that same mistake. And I get that. I understand that. And when it comes to a business like that, currently there is absolutely nothing I could do about it, right? That's something that's outside of my control, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. There are other avenues to bring forth what we have within us. There are other avenues and other ways to take care of the things that we need to take care of, so to speak, right? And we can't limit ourselves to one thing or another. We have to be, and we have to involve ourselves in the things that are going to bring us closer and bring us closer to the reality which we are desiring to create. Now, another thing with trucking is that, hey, I could drive with Walmart too, right? Walmart, I did talk with the what is this word? The onboarders, right? The people that get you started, that onboard you for driving. I talked with them, and they said because of my accident, I have to wait 3 years to drive with Walmart. And Walmart does have an associate to driver program. If after a year of being an associate, you could engage in their program. But since I'm not a new driver and I've had that incident, I have to wait 3 years. Most of the companies you have to wait 3 years. Some companies you have to wait 5. Some you have to wait 1. Some, even if you have to wait 1 year, they require 6 months experience somewhere else after the accident, right? There are a lot of restrictions when it comes to that line of work, which is understandable, right? Trucking is not a small thing. Trucking and being in that truck is a lot of responsibility, because when you're in that thing, I mean, you're driving and pulling 80,000 pounds of weight behind you, possibly more, possibly less. And with that, well, 80,000 is usually the limited amount, but some people drive with more, but we'll leave that for a whole nother thing. But regardless of the case, it's a very strict business, and I have an opportunity to drive later on in the future with where I'm already at, right? And it just makes sense. Like, okay, I'm already here, and I meet a lot of truckers. They say that Walmart treats them like gold. And it dawned on me, okay, I would rather take what I have, push and work into being in a higher position so I could continue to practice my leadership skills in that area, right? Because for me, I love working with people. That's the most important thing, to be able to work with people and to be able to lead, and to lead those that are relying on me to help them get their job done. That's the position I want, and that's what I'm going for. And I'm going to use that with where I'm at as an associate in the automotive department. Now, when it comes to the things that have been manifesting for me, I put myself on the radar screen of my manager. I know I talked about my manager last week, and I ran into her again today, and I stopped and I talked with her. And she was talking about how she was scanning outs. And I've been learning what outs were this week, and I've been scanning outs myself in my department. And we had a small conversation. She was already off the clock, or she was leaving, and I know she needed to go somewhere because she has her own personal life too. And we just had a small, quick conversation, and it hit me too, like, hey, like, she has, like, she works with people. When I approached her, I did tell her, well, not tell her, I don't want to use that word. I asked her, I already knew the answer, but I was like, with what you do, like, you work mainly with people, don't you? And she said, yes. As a manager, you're working mainly with the people. Of course, she goes out on the floor, she does what needs to be done, but ultimately, she's training her team, she's training her people, she's managing the mindset of the people that are running the departments. And that intrigues, that's something that I am moving to doing. And I'm moving to doing that with Walmart. Now, whether I stay to be a manager myself, whether I stay to be a store lead, whether I stay to be a coach, whether I do all that, that'll be a decision I can make in the future. Right now, I'm just focusing on being a lead, right? Just leading my department and what I'm responsible for. Because we have to take one step at a time. Now, Walmart is my first retail job. I worked at a small retail booth when I was like 19 at a mall, but I don't consider that a real legitimate job, right? Something like this is something that, it's more than work. It's something that will legitimately pull out the best in you when you apply it and when you work it, right? This is the opportunity that I have. And like, going back to how quickly this is happening, my team lead has been working with me more and more, teaching me more of the system. My coach has been working with me more and more, helping me through things and showing me more of the system, more of what's most important that we need to focus on when it comes to our work from a higher viewpoint, right? Because we need to work from the viewpoint of the system. And I'm learning that. Like, I'm not just some dude anymore that, you know, goes to work, zones, cleans, provides customer service. Not anymore. Like, now I'm literally being taken and I'm being put, like, I'm getting plugged in. I'm being plugged in. Today they gave me an assignment in a different department, which I was super happy about, because now I'm getting more experience working in a different department. And another thing, this is what blows me away too, because you know how we're talking about visualizing. When we do our meditations, we're visualizing around the things that we want. Now, my meditations, I've been focusing on the feeling of already being a lead, right? When we go into the silence and we start building our mental pictures and we start using the imagination, because remember, the brain doesn't know the difference between what we're imagining and what we're experiencing from the external world, because ultimately it's all electrical signals anyway. So what we do in our meditations, we are creating the mental picture in our mind, and it's doing the exact same thing to the brain. We're building those new neural pathways as if we are legitimately, physically taking the action itself. Like, if we are living it physically, we could live it mentally. And the mental process of living it does the exact same thing to your brain and your neurons as legitimately engaging in it in the physical world. Now, with that being said, I've been imagining myself, hey, I'm already the lead. I'm already a lead. I'm leading my department. So I developed the feeling as if I already had it. And I'm seeing myself actually doing the work from the team lead position, with my teammates coming to me, asking me for things, customers coming to me, asking me for things, right? I'm picturing this. And this is legitimately, the things that I'm picturing are happening more and more. We got a new cat in the Sporting Goods. Sporting Goods is right next door. She comes to me for help. And I did tell her, hey, I'm in training for team lead. I'm moving to the next position. If you need anything, just let me know. I'll give you the answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out, right? I'll figure it out. We'll find out together, so I could get you your answer, right? That's taking the role of being in the leadership. And she has been. She's been coming to me. If I don't know the answer, I'll go to Kristen. I'll get the answer from Kristen, right? But still being that median. And then today, like, people from up front, there's a lead that works in customer service, which is almost on the other side of the store. She literally walked all the way back to my department for help, to help a gentleman about an item that belongs in a whole nother department, right? Just out of nowhere. And she could have gone to somebody that works in the department where the item was in, but no, she legitimately walked over to me to ask me to be able to help that gentleman. And it's just it's amazing. It's just amazing, because remember how we're talking, it's we have to become the thing first in order to manifest. And that becoming it first is we're legitimately building the neural structure. We're legitimately building ourselves to be that by the law of attraction, the law of just psychological behavior, because we become what we think about. Excuse me, sorry. Because remember, it is the nature of consciousness to embody that which it thinks. So what you're thinking about most of the time, you are legitimately becoming. Like legitimately, your brain is forming and shaping to match that image. And your behavior, remember how we've been learning about the subconscious, that the subconscious is the part of you which takes it up, right? And the brain being part of the physical body, and the tool which the mind uses to form and shape and structure, to be able to express that character, that ideal, that thought which we have, the thought which we are. That is a process that happens within us, and then the process of the law of attraction, right, which is a universal law. The universe just moves people, places, and things to support you in the thing of which you want, right? It legitimately, your external reality will just, things just shift to match and to give you the opportunity to act upon it. It's like an otherworldly knowing, right? An otherworldly knowledge, a different, a higher knowledge, right? Because new thought is all about higher thought. This is a higher knowledge. It's a higher way of thinking about life, and you're more closely connected to the legitimate workings of life and how life actually is. Now, I'm not just talking about the life which we live as our on this planet, right? I'm talking about legitimate universal principles. Now, when it comes to other life forms, let's say Andromeda, right? We know for a fact. Now, we know that there's life on other planets, on other galaxies, and other solar systems. There has to be. Like it's just, it's too much of a narrow-minded way of thinking to think we are the only ones that exist in this universe with trillions and trillions of stars and galaxies and planets. It's foolish to think that we're the only ones. Now, these universal laws, we know they work this way here. Now, knowing these are universal principles and they're everywhere, these laws would work in other places too. There's no getting away around it, right? Law of cause and effect. It's, you set in motion a cause, no matter what, the effect is going to happen. This system works, and we are very, very excited for part 5, week 5. Now, the time has gone by pretty quickly. We get, when you get older and you just get so focused on results, right? Because the more responsibility you get when you get older, those responsibilities are met by, right, their demands. Like, you are demanded. It's a demand for you to focus on that responsibility. It's a demand for you to focus on the achievement of the result that you need to achieve to move forward in life. Now, when you're younger, you have all the time in the world, right? You have a lot of time to go out and do things, whatever, make your mistakes, right? Like we've done. now that I'm 31 and I have experienced the things that I've experienced, I've reached a point where I have to build something legitimate. I have to have something solid, and we have to make something work. That's the point that I've reached in my life. But before, even for me, yeah, there was time in my hands, and I'd be thinking about things from the perspective of time. Now I don't. Like today, I didn't even know it was Wednesday. I was talking to my manager, and she mentioned how it was Wednesday. I pulled out my phone, which is funny because today I knew today had to get through the master key system, which we were doing every Wednesday. When I was at work, I didn't even know it was Wednesday. I pulled out my phone. I was like, holy crap, it is Wednesday, right? Like, you get so focused and engrossed on your results and what you're creating in your life, the time doesn't even matter. Like with where I'm at in my age, especially with the goals that I'm pushing towards, it's not about the time anymore. It's about doing what I need to do every day, one day at a time, one step at a time, and being patient with it and working the best that I can, as proficient as I can, to achieve those things. And the time, right? Like they say, a sense of time is just a part of the brain anyway. Our frontal lobe is responsible for the sense of time and space. Now, an example of this, right? Einstein's theory of special relativity. You could be with a beautiful, beautiful woman that just knocks your socks off, and hours could go by, and you wouldn't even feel like those hours went by. Or you could be engrossed or doing something that you don't want to do, that you want it to be over with. In 5 minutes feels like it's forever, right? It's where your focus is on, and ultimately it's where your flow is, where your consciousness is, where you're focusing your mind. Because when we're in a state of flow, we're so engrossed with what it is that we are doing, right? Like right now, it's already 22 minutes. It doesn't feel like 22 minutes for me, but it's already been 22 minutes. And when it comes to flow states, in the shutting down of parts of your frontal lobe, when time goes by quickly and it doesn't feel like it because you're so engrossed in the moment, it's because you're so focused on the present moment and what you're doing that parts of your frontal lobe, legitimately, they I don't want to use the word shut down, they slow down, right? The neurons that are active, which sense time and space, slow down because more blood and nerve force goes into the other parts of your brain that are getting the task done, that are getting the task complete. But anyway, you know what? Let's go ahead and get started because it has been 22 minutes already. Today is Wednesday, and it is time. It is time to move forward in our program and to get part 3 out there and version 3 out there of Master Key System. Because I know, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, I know very few people around here and there throw my video on, they watch it, they may watch all of it, they may watch some of it, but I know in the future people are going to be watching this. And when, like, this is the preparation work, this is the work we are doing in silence on ourselves. Because when we're out there speaking on stage, changing lives, coaching people, then more, right, this is going to be out there more and more. I know it. It's a law. It's a legitimate law that it's going to happen because I'm becoming the person to make it happen. Remember, it's all about becoming the person. So let's go ahead. Let's get started with part 5. It's very exciting. I am very, very excited. I may not look like it, but internally I'm like, yes, let's get through this part, do our meditation, and keep moving forward with the manifestation of the results that we have in our lives. Now, introduction, part 5. Enclosed herewith, you will find part 5. After studying this part carefully, you will see that every conceivable force or object or fact is the result of mind in action. Mind in action is thought, and thought is creative. Men are thinking now as they never thought before. Therefore, this is a creative age, and the world is awarding its richest prizes to the thinker. Now, how we just opened that introduction right now is the example of what I was sharing is happening in my life and the things that I'm manifesting, because my mind is in motion now to achieving higher and more results when it comes to working at Walmart and getting myself into a higher position, right? My thinking has changed. It's no longer divided between getting into a different opportunity. Like I said, if I make a decision to drive, I could drive later on with Walmart. But right now, making the best of what I have and moving forward there. Matter is powerless, passive, inert. Mind is force, energy, power. Mind shapes and controls matter. Every form which matter takes is but the expression of some pre-existing thought. But thought works no magic transformations. It obeys natural laws. It sets in motion natural forces. It releases natural energies. It manifests in your conduct and actions. And these in turn react upon your friends and acquaintances, and eventually upon the whole of your environment. Holy crap. Everything that he is saying is exactly what I just talked about with what I am experiencing. Literally everything. You can originate thought, and since thoughts are creative, you can create for yourself the things you desire. Okay, so that's the end of the introduction. Now, creating the things that we want, as my experience has shown, it's diving deep, making the decision, as it is said. Once you make that decision and nothing is going to change your direction, things are going to happen quickly. They happen fast. At least 90% of our mental life is subconscious, so that those who fail to make use of this mental power live within very narrow limits. The subconscious can and will solve any problem for us if we know how to direct it. The subconscious processes are always at work. The only question is, are we to be simply passive recipients of this activity, or are we to consciously direct the work? Shall we have a vision of the destination to be reached, the dangers to be avoided, or shall we simply drift? We have found that mind pervades every part of the physical body and is always capable of being directed or impressed by authority coming from the objective or the more dominant portion of the mind. Now, if you've been with us through the prior parts, remember how he told us that the conscious mind, which consists of the brain and cerebral spinal system, this is the part of our mind that creates the mental images, that sets thoughts in motion. This is the part of us which directs the currents and the processes of the subconscious mind. Well, the subconscious mind is the interior power, right? We don't need to make our hair grow. We don't need to make our nails grow, right? There's an interior power, an interior intelligence, which we know is the intelligence of the universal mind, which is God within us, working within us. That this mind acts on its own outside of conscious thought and waits for the conscious mind to decide, to make the decision to set these forces, to set this power in motion. Now, what he's saying here, are we to direct the work of the subconscious, or should we just simply drift? Now, obviously, the answer is we need to direct the forces of the subconscious, and it starts with making that decision and knowing exactly what it is that you want. We have found that mind pervades every part of the physical body. We already read that. The mind, which pervades the body, is largely the result of heredity, which in turn is simply the result of all the environments of all past generations. Excuse me. On the responsive and ever moving life forces. Okay, let's see. So he's saying the subconscious mind and the functions of the subconscious is largely the result of heredity. He says an understanding of this fact will enable us to use our authority when we find some undesirable trait of character manifesting. Now, that makes a lot of sense, because I am just like my dad in a lot of ways, and I am just like my mom in a lot of ways. Like they say, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Now, there were a lot of things that I didn't exactly like about my pops, and I know when I was younger, now that I'm older, I respect him dearly. I am very, very thankful. I think I have the best dad in the world, and there are a lot of reasons for it, especially as I got older and I actually understood, right, what that man went through to make sure all of us were okay, and the sacrifices that he made, and the sacrifices he still makes for me today. But now that I'm older, I understand that, and I get that. And, I could apologize as many times as I need to for how I used to be, right? Or how I acted or behaved, or whatever I may have did in the past when I was younger. But I was a kid, right? There were things about life that I did not know or understand. So how can I possibly know, or whatever I thought I didn't like about him, not understanding why he was the way he was or being the way he was being? Right? And it's completely different today. But back to the heredity, right? These hereditary characteristics that we get from our parents, our grandparents, those of our family tree. I am just like my pops in a lot of ways. Now, my brother and my sister-in-law actually told me a couple months back, well, it's probably been close to a year now, how much like our dad I actually am like. It's amazing. It's amazing. But he is saying here, too, if there are traits that we inherited from those, if there are traits from the tree, right, that we inherited from the authority, right, from the authoritative mind, from the conscious mind, we can overcome those negative traits through the will, through decision, through being conscious of them, and maintaining control over those inherited subconscious actions. He's saying we have control over those and how they manifest. We can consciously use all the desirable characteristics with which we have been provided, and we can repress and refuse to allow the undesirable ones to manifest. So taking the things that we just naturally receive from those before us, using those, keeping those, and taking that and moving forward with that, and with the power of the conscious mind, building that image, making those choices, we need to create and overcome those negative tendencies we may have and replace them with more positive tendencies, right? A lot of this is in alignment with evolution as well, evolving through your ancestry, evolving through your seed, right? Because you could overcome those negative characteristics, create positive characteristics, and hey, if the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, your offspring will have a very high probability of receiving your positive, your evolution, your progress that you've made through your legacy, your bloodline. Very interesting. Again, this mind which pervades our physical body is not only the result of hereditary tendencies, but is the result of home, business, and social environment, where countless thousands of impressions, ideas, prejudices, and similar thoughts have been received. So he's saying a lot of our subconscious behavior not only came from what we received from the seed of our parents, but they've also come from the environment we grew up in, the business that we're in, the home we live in, our social environment, where we hang out around, right? These external external scenarios have an impression that they make upon the subconscious mind, and if we're not conscious of it, they can have an influence on our behavior. Much of this has been the result of others, the result of opinions, suggestions, or statements. Much of it is the result of our own thinking, but nearly all of it has been accepted with little or no examination or consideration. Now, since we are talking about things that we may receive from the external world that may cause a negative influence. Remember, it is in our power, with the watchman at the gate, with the conscious mind, to determine how we're going to let this external experience affect us. Because if we get too involved in that external influence, it's going to get in our subconscious. It's going to influence our behavior. It's going to influence our emotions, which in turn are going to leave an impression upon the subconscious mind. Now, remember, the subconscious is relying upon you, the conscious mind, the I am, the personal I am, to guard it from these negative external impressions. You know what? I forgot to talk about my experience with my training with part 4 last week. Let's go ahead and do that really quick. Now, part 4, he told us about relaxing and letting go, right? Letting go of the things that hurt us in the past, letting go of things that we're holding on to. And negative, since we're talking about negative impressions, because a lot of us take these negative impressions and we carry it with us, and that's added weight, that's extra weight that we can't and should not be carrying with us. Look, life is life. Like I've said in the beginning of the video, life happens. A lot of negative things happen, but also a lot of positive things happen to us as well. Remember, since a lot of our life is dependent upon what we're focusing on, we need to train our mind to focus more on the positive things and hold on to that positivity, those life-giving, emotionally fulfilling experiences, and to let go, not let the negative ones affect us. Because if we carry the negative ones around with us and it's lodged into our subconscious mind, it's going to have a negative effect on our conscious thinking. Remember, the whole point of this program is to clear the mind, the conscious mind, to be able to plant the right seeds in the mind and to reprogram the subconscious for the achievement of the things that we want. And to do that, you need to clean this thing out. You need to let go of negative things. Because remember, we become what we think about. And if our thoughts are mainly catered towards negativity, or the things that happened to us in the past, that, hey, I can't forgive that, this is what they did, this is what he did, this is what she did, none of that matters. Remember, it takes two to make a situation. Yeah, you may have not been responsible for the way that person reacted, and it just left you feeling negative. But remember, it takes two to create a situation. There were a lot of things that I've done when I was younger that I blamed other people for. And as I got older, I realized my part when it came to the creation of that situation, right? And that was on me. Now, was the situation completely my fault? No, because they had a part in it too. And I've had conversations with people that I didn't, right? Like, for example, you have an old buddy of mine. Something happened between us that broke up our brotherhood. And we were very young too. And the situation we were confronted with was out of our growth, right? It was out of our ability to handle, all inclusive. Financially, emotionally, with our thinking. Like, it was bigger than us at that time. And it ended up breaking up our brotherhood. Now, years later, we had got together and we talked with each other about the situation. I apologized for my part. He apologized for his. And like, we grew from that. Now, do we come back together as brothers today? No. Right? No. But it doesn't, Like, we got together and we talked about the situation, had a clear understanding of it, and we just moved forward from there. Right? But during that time, before that apology, before that clarity, that clearness happened between us, I was holding on to that situation because it was heartbreaking. It was a very hurtful moment. And I held on to that, and it influenced a lot of my decisions that I made throughout the day, because a lot of my decisions were based on not letting something like this happen to me again, which is fine, right? We want to learn from our mistakes. We don't want to make them again. Obviously, we want to take that, learn from it, and make different decisions so it doesn't happen again. But there is also a certain emotional state that we need to maintain, and not let our emotions dictate our actions. Because, back when I used to do a lot of drugs and drink a lot, we are sober today. We are coming up on 4 years sobriety, thankfully. A lot of my emotional baggage, so to speak, was the cause and reason for a negative behavior, such as indulging in a substance to make myself feel better, right? And that's what I mean by allowing these impressions to drive us to making certain decisions and consciousness, right? I didn't know how to overcome it. I didn't know how to let it go. I didn't know how to just let it go. And because I was holding on to that baggage emotionally, it was interfering and influencing the decisions that I was making. And the whole point of me sharing that, like I was saying, when it comes to this system, it's about letting those things go, letting go of the emotional trauma behind it, letting go of any type of emotional baggage, so it's not interfering with our ability to think rationally and our ability to set the right cause in motion for ourselves and the manifestation of the life that we want, and also our ability to keep our mind focused on the task at hand and the results and the responsibilities that we have today. And our program last week was, our training last week was all about, hey, you need to let go of these things. And like Mr. Hannell said, and even like I mentioned a little bit ago, you may feel like you can't, but as he said in his own words, you can let go of it. You can do so because you can will to do so. Remember, that is the power of the conscious mind. That will is our willpower and our ability to choose to think and respond to certain, life experiences that is within control of the conscious mind. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Oh, I got the hiccups. Okay, let's continue. We shared that. Now, the ideas seem plausible. Now, let's go ahead and get ourselves back onto the flow, right? So the last thing we read, much of it is the result of our own thinking, but nearly all of it has been accepted with little or no examination or consideration. The idea seemed plausible. The conscious received it, passed it on to the subconscious, where it was taken up by the sympathetic system and passed on to be built into our physical body. Quote, the word has become flesh. End quote. Now remember, the word is thought itself. The word of God is the thought of God. Now, the word in this scenario is the thoughts, right? It is the thought of which we are harboring within our own consciousness. And these thoughts, he's saying, they're being taken up by the sympathetic system, which we've already covered. The sympathetic system is a system of nerves which the subconscious mind resides in. So the subconscious, right? He says the ideas seem plausible. The conscious mind accepted the idea. And from the accepting of the idea by the conscious mind, the subconscious mind then picks it up. It gets passed to the subconscious system. And then this subconscious mind then begins to build that thought, to build that idea into its mind, right? Into our habits, into our behavior, into our physical body. The word has become flesh. This, then, is the way we are constantly creating and recreating ourselves. We are today the result of our past thinking, and we shall be what we are thinking today. The law of attraction is bringing to us not the things we should like, or the things we wish for, or the things someone else has, but it brings us our own, the things which we have created by our thought processes, whether consciously or unconsciously. Unfortunately, many of us are creating these things unconsciously. Again, adding to what this program is doing for us, this program is giving us the conscious possession. Remember, in order to really possess and to take control of these powers, this mental power, these mental forces which we have, which we are, we have to be conscious of them. We have to be aware of them. And through being aware of how it works, we then take the possession of these laws, these principles, mentally in consciousness. And from that consciousness, from that thinking, we could then use it conscientiously, use the creative power of spirit, the creative power of mind, creative power of consciousness, whatever you want to call it, to build ourselves to be who we want to be. Because look what he's saying right here. Law of attraction is bringing to us not the things we should like, or the things we wish for, or the things someone else has. It brings us our own, the things which we have created by our thought processes. And as he just said right here, what happens from the thoughts that we think and that we accept, it gets passed to the realm of the subconscious mind, and the subconscious then acts upon it, becoming our habits and our behaviors. And our behavior is what has a direct influence on our environment. And he's saying this happens whether we know it or not. Unfortunately, many of us are creating these things unconsciously. If either of us were building a home for ourselves, how careful we would be in regard to the plans, how we should study every detail, how we should watch the material and select only the best of everything. And yet, how careless we are when it comes to building our mental home, which is infinitely more important than any physical home, as everything which can possibly enter into our lives depends upon the character of the material which enters into the construction of our mental home. Remember, you could call this, when he's saying mental home, okay, he's talking about our mindset, our blueprint, where we are living in our thought processes, where we live in consciousness itself. Because he's saying when we're building a physical home, when we're looking for a physical home, when we have a home and we want to design it and purchase beautiful material to create a homely, beautiful, comfortable environment for us to live in, we're very careful. Obviously, we're strategic because we're working with the level of finances that we have. But ultimately, you're working with the finances that you have to build a very comfortable, beautiful living space for yourself. And he's saying how careful we are when it comes to doing that for ourselves, but how careless most of us are when it comes to doing that for our mind and building our mental home. Right? Our mental home, he is saying, is infinitely more important than any physical home that we live in. Now, we've already covered many, many times, and we've covered it enough for you should already be at the point of understanding exactly why that is, because it has to do with what? Our mindset, with how we think, with how we are experiencing our reality. What we think about the environment that we are in, what we think about when it comes to the people that we react with or interact with, what we think about when it comes to the work that we're engaged in, right? It's all in our thinking. It's all in how we are thinking about it. And all that thought process is all dependent upon the programming of the subconscious mind. Remember, because 90%, like he says right here, 90% of our mental life is subconscious. What is the character of this material? We have seen that it is the result of the impressions which we have accumulated in the past and stored away in our subconscious mentality, okay, which everything you said right there, we've already covered back here. If these impressions have been of fear, of worry, of care, of anxiety, if they have been despondent, negative, doubtful, then the texture of the material which we are weaving today will be of the same negative material. Instead of being of any value, it will be mildewed and rotten, and will bring us only more toil and care and anxiety. We shall be forever busy trying to patch it up and make it appear at least genteel. Gosh damn. How true are those words? Now I know if you're an older cat listening, you could probably attach that statement to aspects of your life and how much you've changed and grown in your life as compared to who you were in the past and who you were as you were younger. Because I can. I've had many times in my life where, yeah, I wasn't happy with who I was not happy with where I was, and I was so busy trying to make things look better on the outside when the real work needed to be done within, right? And for you youngsters that may be watching and listening to this, the work is within you. It is something internal that you have to work on, something internal that you have to focus on and grow, which is your mind, your mindset, your way of thinking, and how you are going to think about your life, about yourself and the life in which you live. Just remember, it's our thought process which changes it. If we have stored away nothing but courageous thought, if we have been optimistic, positive, and have immediately thrown any kind of negative thought on the scrap pile, if we have refused to have anything to do with it, have refused to associate with it, or become identified with it in any way, what then is a material? So what he's saying here, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? Life is life, and we experience both good things and bad things in our life. But ultimately, it's how we are going to choose to respond and accept that situation, or how we're going to look at that situation. Because as many good things, possibly even more good things, will happen to you as much as negative things. But if we're focusing more on the positive things and knowing and understanding that, hey, any type of negative condition that may happen, especially if it wasn't from you, then you could just, it is what it is, right? You could respectfully say internally, right? You respectfully say internally that, hey, this has nothing to do with me. That is something on the outside. I am not going to let that get in me, right? I'm not going to let this interfere or impress my way of thinking, how I'm going to think and how I'm going to feel. Because remember, the law is in play. The law is in motion. Because if you accept any type of negativity in this, a negative influential energy, it's going to leave a negative impression upon your mind, which will lead you to getting sucked into a negative behavior yourself. Now, this isn't easy. It's not easy. It's very, it can be a challenge, right? There are going to be some people that are forcefully trying to push your buttons, or intentionally trying to push your buttons. But you also got to remember, if that is happening, that is a result of their character. And as we're talking about the life within ourselves, right, the inner life, the spiritual life, in the programming of our conscious mind, that shows where they are at, and it also shows, hey, that's what they have to live with. Right? They're walking around with those thoughts. They're living in that. And you don't have to. You don't have to. But he's saying here, refusing to associate with anything negative, right? You throw it to the side. You only focus on courageous thought. You only focus on being optimistic. This doesn't mean being blindly optimistic, but understanding why you need to be optimistic. and have immediately thrown any kind of negative thought on the scrap pile, have refused to have anything to do with it, have refused to associate with it or become identified with it in any way, what then is the result? Okay, so what is the result that we will experience, viewer, if we refuse negativity and accept only thoughts, higher thinking? He says, our mental material is now of the best kind. We can weave any kind of material we want. We can use any color we wish. We know that the texture is firm, that the material is solid, that will not fade, and we have no fear, no anxiety concerning the future. There is nothing to cover. There are no patches to hide. So he is saying that once we get to the point of letting certain negative things just fall off our shoulders, not affect us at all, especially those things that aren't really relevant, right? There are things that happen in our life. Let's say there's a loved one or a death in the family, right? This is a very, it's a heartbreaking thing. Now we could look at it and understand, hey, this person passed away, right? It's a very sensitive situation. It's a very relevant situation. And you could go through the motions. You'll feel emotional about it. You may cry over it. I've cried many times over loved ones that have passed away. But we take that and we move forward with it, understanding that, hey, they may not be in this form anymore. They went off. They're with the Creator. They exist now on a higher plane because they're no longer in their corporal form. No, right? A situation like that is very relevant. You could act accordingly, and you could still understand that, hey, they've moved on to a higher place. But when it comes to your behavior in that situation, hey, be a part of the scenario in that. But when it comes to a situation where, let's say, somebody's just being a straight jackass, excuse my Italian, a straight, just behaving in such a way that's not necessary, right? It's a situation like that, like I said, depends on its relevance, right? Something like that is just irrelevant, and you just respond accordingly from a higher viewpoint, a higher way of thinking. Because when we do that, the material we're building in our mind is going to be solid material. It's going to be firm material. It's going to be material that won't fade. It's going to be material that is going to be necessary for the attainment towards the ideals we have, for the meeting the demands, the responsibilities that we meet in our lives. He says these are psychological facts. There is no theory or guesswork about these thinking processes. There is nothing secret about them. In fact, they are so plain that everyone can understand them. The thing to do is to have a mental house cleaning, and to have this house cleaning every day and keep the house clean, which is all a part about which is what going in the silence is about, right? Keeping this mental house clean. He's saying mental, moral, and physical cleanliness are absolutely indispensable if we are to make progress of any kind. Now, why is this so? Why is having a physical clean body, why is having a mental clean mental body what was the other one that he said? In a morally clean, moral body, right? These things are absolutely essential for you progressing in your life. Now, the reason they are absolutely essential, because look up here. The law gives us our own. The law gives us in accordance to who we are, right? So the goal is to grow internally, to grow in consciousness, in your thinking, in your behavior, in your character. That's why mental, moral, and physical cleanliness are absolutely indispensable, because these things are the things that are directly connected to who you are as a person, to your being, to your character. In the law, in where we think from and how we think is a direct outflow. It's the source from which our thoughts come from themselves. So when we have a higher level of consciousness and we have a mental house that is clean and beautiful on the inside, and our thinking is clean and beautiful, then the things outside of us automatically, by themselves, by psychological law, is gonna is in universal law of attraction. These things will respond accordingly and be beautiful both on the inside and outside. Because remember, it's thoughts. He's saying thoughts and mind, and the I is the cause of these things. It says, when this mental house cleaning process has been completed, the material which is left will be suitable for the making of the kind of ideals or mental images which we desire to realize. And we were talking about that earlier. The beginning of this program is all about getting control of yourselves, getting control over your body, getting control of your mind, getting control of your being. And from there, relaxing, letting go of things, allowing the mind not to be held down by things that may have happened to you in the past, not allowing the mind to be held down by baggage or things that could keep you from thinking higher thoughts, thinking yourself into higher planes. That's the whole beginning of this program, because this is what's going to allow you to create the conditions in the physical cleanliness to start building yourself to be that which you do want to be. Say, for example, a great analogy of how this works is, say you're in a field, right? You're a farmer, you're going out to plot your field. Now the field is it's never been taken care of. There's rocks everywhere. The ground is not leveled or evened out. There's a bunch of weeds everywhere, goat heads, thorns, it's just savagery, right? Now you come in. Now he's saying this is how a lot of people live their mental lives with weeds. They live their mental lives with weeds. It's not the soil is not tilled. The soil may be hard. There's rocks everywhere, right? It's a hard soil. Now he's saying that's a great analogy of how the majority of people are living today. But he's saying once we do this mental cleaning, all right, that mental cleaning can be seen as the farmer going out and tilling the soil, right? He takes his tractor, he goes through the dirt, he breaks up the dirt, he removes whatever rocks he needs to move, he levels out the dirt, he pulls out the weeds, right? You'll be pulling out the weeds that are in your mind, which we know is your thinking, your negative thoughts, your negative behaviors, these negative impressions that you may have received from your environment, right? You're tilling your mind like the farmer tills the soil. And why does the farmer till the soil? Level everything out, soften the soil to plant the seeds that he wants, to plant the fruits that he wants. If he wants fruit, corn, apple trees, lemon trees, whatever it is, right? He needs to prepare the soil first, so when he plants that seed, the seed is going to be able to grow and germinate into that phenomenal life-giving tree that it will become. Same thing with you. The process of this, we are tilling the soil of our mind, pulling out the weeds, and we are creating the conditions for ourselves mentally to plant the thoughts that we want, to plant the ideals that we want, to plant the character that we want to be in accordance with who we are. The law of attraction, manifestation, cause and effect will work in accordance with that higher thought which you have for yourselves. Like he said, the material which is left, once the mental house cleaning is complete, the material which is left will be suitable for the making of the kind of ideals or mental images which we desire to realize. He goes on to saying, there is a fine estate awaiting a claimant, Its broad acres with abundant crops, running water, and fine timber stretch away as far as the eye can see. There is a mansion, spacious and cheerful, with rare pictures, a well-stocked library, rich hangings, and every comfort and luxury. All the heir has to do is assert his heirship, take possession, and use the property. Excuse me. He must use it. He must not let it decay. For use is the condition on which he holds it. To neglect it is to lose possession. So as he said right here, there is an estate within you which has the best of everything. This estate is simply waiting for you to make it that, right? For you to take possession of the mind. Till the weeds out of your mind. Take the negative thoughts out of your mind. Get rid of your negative behaviors and replace it with positive behaviors. Replace it with thoughts of courage, thoughts of purpose, thoughts of goals, thoughts of that which you want to manifest. Thinking about the things that you want. Remember how he said in, I believe it was part 1, think about the things you want and not about the things you don't want, because those thoughts are the seeds which you will be planting in the soil of which you have. To not do this, to not take possession of these things, is to lose the possession itself. In the domain of mind and spirit, in the domain of practical power, such an estate is yours. Viewer, this estate is yours. You are the heir. You can assert your heirship and possess and use this rich inheritance. Power over circumstances is one of its fruits. So he's saying, right now, you have the ability to change your life, and you do that by changing the mind, your mindset. He's saying when you do this, whatever circumstances you're facing in your life, he says you will have power over these circumstances, because, as he's saying here, doing this is one of its fruits. Power over circumstances is one of the fruits of increasing the processes of your thought, increasing where you are at in consciousness. Now, this doesn't mean just going out and gaining control and power over others. By no means. Remember, the biggest power we have is over ourselves. And as it is said, it is easier, as he says, it's easier to run a kingdom than it is to run ourselves. Or it's easier to control a kingdom than it is to control ourselves. But once we assert that heirship, once we assert control over our own mind, power over the circumstances in our life, we'll go ahead and add that in there. Remember, it's in your life. It's one of the fruits of asserting yourself mentally. He says health, harmony, and prosperity are assets upon its balance sheet. So health, harmony, and prosperity are things that will come to you. These are the things that are just a part of growing yourself mentally. It offers you poise and peace. Now, poise is calmness, right? It gives you poise and peace. It gives you internal calmness and internal peace. It costs you only the labor of studying and harvesting its great resources. Now, it's very interesting, too, because even earlier today, I was talking about, amongst myself, I was talking about how everything we need has already been given to us in books. Right? The only thing that we need to do is to read it, study it, extract it, understand it, and apply it in our lives. And he's saying right here, the only thing, the cost for you to achieve this is the labor of studying, the labor of understanding the psychological laws that you live by, the universal laws which we all live by, and harvesting, right? Harvesting it, developing it, using it, applying and harvesting its great resources. It demands no sacrifice except the loss of your limitations, your servitudes, your weakness. So the only thing you're sacrificing from the engagement of reprogramming your own mind is what? The loss of your limitations, right? You're sacrificing your limitations because this system is giving you the power of what? To create any condition which you desire. Your servitudes, right? It'll be the loss of your servitudes. Now let's look at what he means. Let's think a little bit more about what he means by there, because we know we need to be of service. We are men and women of service. Us New Thought advocates of New Thought Society, we are men and women of service. So your servitudes, maybe he's talking about being of service in a place where you have no control, possibly. And he is saying your weakness, so you'll be losing your weakness, right? Because you're then replacing that weakness with strength. It clothes you with self-honor and puts a scepter in your hands. Puts a scepter in your hands. To gain this estate, 3 processes are necessary. First, you must First, you must earnestly desire it. Second, you must assert your claim. And third, you must take possession. So he's saying to gain this estate, to gain this power, you have to desire to gain it. You have to want it. You have to want it enough. You have to want it badly enough to assert yourself over it. Right? You must assert your claim, as he says right here, and you must take possession. So first, you have to desire to gain this estate. Second, you must assert that it is yours and take possession of it. You have to take it for yourselves. Remember, this taking has nothing to do with what's on the outside. Remember, you're taking possession of what is already within. You admit that those are not burdensome conditions. You are familiar with the subject of heredity. Darwin, Huxley, Haeckel, and other physical scientists have piled evidence mountain high that heredity is a law attending progressive creation. It is progressive heredity which gives man his erect attitude, his power of motion, the organs of digestion, blood circulation, nerve force, muscular force, bone structure, and a host of other faculties on the physical side. There are even more impressive facts concerning heredity of mind force. All these constitute what may be called your human heredity. But there is a heredity which the physical scientists have not compassed. It lies beneath an antecedent. Antecedent is within. Now, I do have my dictionary ready. Let's look up what antecedent is. Antecedent. Preceding. Antecedent is preceding, prior. Now, it's in its adjective form. As a noun, it's saying a preceding circumstance, event, object, style, phenomenon. So he says it lies beneath an antecedent, before, prior to all their researches. So he's saying all the heredity that the physical scientists have found, and the evidence, this mountain high evidence that they have discovered that heredity is a real thing, they said that even what they found is not compassed by what we have found when it comes to mental or spiritual heredity, right? He's saying the heredity here, it lies beneath an antecedent prior to all of their researches of physical heredity. He says, at a point where they throw up their hands in despair, saying they cannot account for what they see. This divine heredity is found in full sway. So what he's talking about spiritual heredity, because we know everything that exists first has its cause in spirit, right? Spirit is the cause, mind is the cause, thought is the cause, while everything physical on the outside, all that is the effect that comes from the cause. And it's interesting because, as he was saying before, whatever tendencies we may have picked up from our environment, whatever tendencies we may picked up from our parents, from our ancestors, right? We're not barred down by those tendencies ourselves. Now, as I have said too, I am like my parents in a lot of ways. But whatever negative impressions I may have gotten from them, I may have gotten from my environment, I am not barred down by those negative impressions, because by the activity of my conscious mind, I can overcome them. I could move beyond them. I could grow beyond them and not let these negative impressions affect me. Right? Because he's saying right here, these physical heredity that we may have received, it is still an external, it's still an effect. Well, the cause of that, the divine heredity, is found within, and it's found in full sway. It is the benignant force, benignant? I believe it's benignant. Let's look it up. Benug. Excellent. Typed in benug. Benignant. Again, this sounds like something existing within. Benignant.
Benignant.
It is pronounced benignant. Adjective, kind, especially to inferiors, gracious, exerting a good influence, beneficial. Okay, so he's saying it's a good influence, it's a beneficial. It is a beneficial force, right? It's a benignant force, a beneficial force, which decrees primal creation, which comes before primal creation. It throws down from the divine, direct into every created being. It originates life, which the physical scientist has not done, nor ever can do. It stands out among all forces supreme, unapproachable. Now, mind you, remember this system was made back in 1916. Scientists have found out today through quantum physics that there is a universal quantum field which we all live and move and have our being. And this field is the foundation of every atom in existence. Even Mr. Hanel explains these things in other chapters of his books, or other parts of his books. But at the time he wrote this, he is saying that physical scientists have not discovered this. So he's saying this force, this spiritual force, this giving force, stands out among all forces supreme, unapproachable. No human heredity can approach it. No human heredity measures up to it. So he says this infinite life flows through you, is you. Its doorways are but the faculties which comprise your consciousness. So your consciousness is made out of the stuff, the substance of the infinite life, right? Infinite mind, infinite wisdom is the infinite consciousness which flows within all things, permeates all of empty space, is the foundation of all matter, which is the foundation of who and what we are. So our consciousness itself is comprised of this infinite source. To keep open these doors is the secret of power. Is it not worthwhile to make the effort? Yes, viewer. Yes, Mr. Wayne, it is worthwhile to make the effort, because we are then building a consciousness in unity with the workings of the universal consciousness. We are building our mind to be to be functioning in congruence with the principles of the universal mind, which we know is universal laws within itself. The great fact is that the source of all life and all power is from within. Persons, circumstances, and events may suggest need and opportunities, but the insight, strength, and power to answer those needs will be found within. Well, that kind of leads back to what I was saying earlier with what I'm experiencing in my life and the responsibilities that we gain as men, as women, as we get older. We have responsibilities and opportunities at our fingertips that we must meet. We must rise to the occasion to meet the demands of what we are being called to meet in our lives today. And that power to meet those demands is based upon what we have within, what we already possess within, our thinking, our consciousness, our mindset. Avoid counterfeits. Build firm foundations for your subconscious upon forces which flow direct from the infinite source, the universal mind of which you are the image and likeness. Those who have come into possession of this inheritance are never quite the same again. They have come into possession of a sense of power, hitherto undreamed of. They can never again be timid, weak, vacillating, or fearful. They are indissolubly connected with omnipotence. Something in them has been aroused. They have suddenly discovered that they possess a tremendous latent ability of which they were heretofore entirely unconscious. This power is from within, but we cannot receive it unless we give it. Use is the condition upon which we hold this inheritance. We are each of us but the channel through which the omnipotent power is being differentiated into form. Unless we give, the channel is obstructed and we can receive no more. Meaning what? We must be of service. That which we have, we must give to others. That is the only way we can keep it, by giving it out. Unless we give, the channel is obstructed and we can receive no more. This is true on every plane of existence and in every field of endeavor in all walks of life. The more we give, the more we get. The athlete who wishes to get strong must make use of the strength he has, and the more he gives, the more he will get. The financier who wishes to make money must make use of the money he has, for only by using it can he get more. The merchant who does not keep his goods going out will soon have none coming in. The corporation which fails to give efficient service will soon lack customers. The attorney who fails to get results will soon lack clients, and so it goes everywhere. Power is contingent upon a proper use of the power already in our possession. Wow. So, viewer, the power which we have in our consciousness is dependent upon our recognition of it, us taking control of it, and applying it in our lives. And we know that this power is based upon who we already are as individuals and our ability to think. Because the result of our thought, remember, it's governed by psychological law, and we're going to become that which we are thinking about most of the time. Now, that's the basis of which this power is manifesting as. These other things, when he's talking about our fitness, when he's talking about our business, when he's talking about our finances, these things are dependent upon the use of the power which you already have, which is going to be the power of our thinking. And how well we systemize and work the systems of which we create. All that, again, is dependent upon how we systemize our thought process and the ability in the level of which we take our consciousness ourselves. Right? How well you do what you do, regardless of what it is that you're doing or what avenue you're choosing to provide that service. It's all dependent upon how well you use this. What is true in every field of endeavor, every experience in life, is true of the power from which every other power known among men is begotten. Spiritual power, which is exactly what we just said. Take away the spirit, and what is left? Nothing. If then the spirit is all there is, upon the recognition of this fact must depend the ability to demonstrate all power, whether physical, mental, or spiritual. Remember, as we were saying before, is consciousness. If consciousness and spirit is all there is, upon the recognition of spiritual power, must depend upon the ability to demonstrate all power. So your ability to recognize your spiritual power, your ability to focus, your ability to think, your ability to achieve, the ability of you to understand these infinite resources that are within you and to develop them and utilize them and put them into practice and apply them towards the things in your life. Your ability to understand and recognize this is going to depend upon your ability to demonstrate all power in all avenues of life, whether it's physical power, whether it's mental power, or spiritual power. If we could go ahead and add this in there, financial power as well. All possession is the result of the accumulative attitude of mind, or the money consciousness. This is the magic wand which will enable you to receive the idea, and it will formulate plans for you to execute, and you will find as much pleasure in the execution as in the satisfaction of attainment and achievement. Now, go to your room, take the same seat, the same position as heretofore, and mentally select a place which has pleasant associations. Make a complete mental picture of it. See the buildings, the grounds, the trees, friends, associations, everything complete. At first, you will find yourself thinking of everything under the sun, except the ideal upon which you desire to concentrate. Now, knowing that we've been going through the process of building control over our thoughts and being able to relax while sitting in a meditative position, in the lotus position, this should be much easier than what he is giving us now. Because he's saying we may find ourselves thinking of everything under the sun. But remember, we spent this whole last month of controlling that which we are thinking. So it should be easier by now for you, viewer. If you're still finding yourself thinking of a bunch of things, then you need to keep practice. You need to keep practicing getting control over your thought process and living in the now. Because he's saying you may find yourself thinking of everything under sun except the ideal upon which you desire to concentrate. But do not let that discourage you. Persistence will win, but persistence requires that you practice these exercises every day without fail. As we said, 4 to 5 times a week. If you have a lot of time in the world, then by all means, every day, right? Because you need to fill your time with something constructive. But for us that are older, other viewers that have a lot on their plate and lots of responsibilities, right? At least 4 to 5 times a week, make time to gain control over your consciousness. Make time to till the soil of any negative thought or negative characteristics which you have, so you could plant the seeds of positive thought, so you could build a greater positive character. So in the end, the effects of that greater character, it's going to work in your benefit, so you could create higher conditions for yourself so you could meet the higher demands and the higher requirements and meet the responsibilities of which you have from a higher level. All right, it starts with you. It starts with building that higher thought process. So what he's saying here, for our exercise this week, okay, we need to mentally select a place which has pleasant associations. Make a complete mental picture of it. See the buildings, the grounds, the trees, friends, associations, everything complete. So he's saying ultimately we are going to be, we're going to be training the imagination. Okay, ultimately this is about training our ability to create mental pictures, right? We need to create scenarios to where we're in a condition, in a situation, we can see it full-heartedly, mentally. Now, as for me, right, I'm going to be taking this and I'm going to be imagining and focusing it on my work, where I am at in my business, right? So I could get myself to the next level. Because ultimately, like I've been saying, for my focus, it's been around becoming lead. Right now, that's the main focus, being lead. New Thought Society, this is going to happen. No matter what's going to happen, as long as we continue to persist in it. But something like this, remember, I'm building this from the ground up, so it's going to take time. But with where I'm at financially, it's something that's already built. It's a giant corporation. It's all around the world, essentially. And we need to take that and make the best of it with where we're at. So that's what we'll be focusing on this week. Keep moving forward to getting into a higher position. Now that is in a part 5. I'm legitimately sweating. I don't know if you could see it. Right now my face is all shiny. It is getting hot in here. Now that's in a part 5. If you made it to the end of this part with me, thank you for watching. Thank yourself for going through this with us. Now again, we do have the Master Key system in audiobook form, free for you to listen to. If you don't want to go through the system with me, by all means, you could take this for yourself and put yourself through the process. If you do want to go through this with me, then great. Thank you for watching. We have our meditation for this week, and we will be back next Wednesday for the next part. And we are also going to be back next week for more results, right? More results to share when it comes with work. We're very excited. Very, very excited. Right now, we're going to go ahead and end this right here. Mr. Wayne needs to get something to eat. I am very, very hungry. And we have our meditation to do. And we have our goals to reach. Because I know once I'm achieving my goals, in helping change a lot of people's lives, in financially getting myself into a position to where I'm more stable and able to do more with what I am capable of doing. Remember, money is a tool. Money is the tool which will allow us to achieve the things that we want. Money is a tool that will allow us to become who it is that we want to be. Money is not the end of things. Money is the means to an end. Right? The means of attaining the things which we desire. Now, later on, Mr. Hennel, this is like later on in chapter, or in part 19, part 17, but later on he does explain what money is and how he mentioned the money consciousness now, right? We have to build the money consciousness. Now, when we go through Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about this exact same thing, building the money consciousness. In the formula Napoleon Hill gives us, is the formula we use for reprogramming the subconscious mind. And we're literally Mr. Hannell is giving us this entire formula in this system. It's all about reprogramming the subconscious mind by cleaning out the conscious mind and redirecting the forces of our thought processes to get that reprogramming in our subconscious. Because once it's subconscious and we are that, the manifestation is going to follow by itself. It does so by the law, by a natural universal law. And as I said, as I gain the results and move forward in my life, and I keep achieving and achieving, and eventually when I'm up on stage, I know it is during that time and I'm coaching people and helping them achieve and manifest the lives that they want, these videos are going to be seen more and more. In my society, New Thought Society, this society will be built more and more, and it's going to be moving forward and progressing from there. So that being said, thank you for making it to the end of this video. Have a great night. I will see you next Wednesday. Love you.